I think we're waiting on a few more people.
Yes, I think a few more people should be joining any second now. Thank you guys for being very, very patient this morning.
Looks like a few more people are joining, so we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started here.
Shawn, I think we can start. We can get started.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yep. Hey, good morning, everyone. I wanted to first of all thank you for being available on a beautiful Thursday morning. We're excited to host this webinar in our partnership with Zadara Storage. It's an exciting solution because of further along you'll kind of learn a little bit more about it, but because we have sort of built up a pretty strong cloud expertise, some of the conversations we're having with our clients and prospects is around controlling their costs as it relates to public cloud, public and private cloud. Particularly, we'll focus more on the public cloud around Azure, AWS, etc. Folks always are talking about, well, I signed up for one thing and I didn't really get another. I got something else, or when I have to pull my data out of AWS or Azure, it can become quite costly. So we'll get started and we'll run through an agenda as well. So welcome to the webinar to control your data, control your costs. Obviously, like I mentioned, using cloud storage to reduce your risk and allow you to operate more efficiently. Joining me this morning will be Shawn Yakely with Zadara Storage. He runs their North American channel, as well as Kirk Jenkins, who's a solutions architect, very well versed in the industry itself and storage. And I think everyone here on this call will benefit by hearing the message. So The agenda is we're going to discuss top 5 storage pain points. This is stuff that we hear every day, all the time, in the normal conversations. How organizations are benefiting by leveraging cloud storage. We think we have a simpler way to help you store your data. It's a great model for service providers like ourselves. And then I will discuss how this has become a vital and important part of us as providing our managed IT services around cloud. And of course, we'll end up with a Q&A. So I'll turn this over to Shawn Yakely to begin, and I will join you a little bit later on this webinar.
I appreciate it, Arthur. Thank you, everybody. I want to make sure, is there an echo? Are you guys hearing one? Hopefully not. And Kirk, you should be on as a presenter now as well. So today, as we were talking about, we're going to go through an overview on the hybrid cloud. And really, to get started, one of the first conversations is, what is the cloud? I think if you talk to a bunch of different people, you get a very different idea of what a cloud is. From our perspective, it's an operating model. It's not even a physical destination. I think often when we think of the cloud nowadays, it is, well, specifically the public cloud. You think of AWS, Azure, Google, that type of thing. A hybrid cloud allowed you to define the storage both where it physically sits and where it can leverage both an offsite location and or a remote location. When you're looking for a cloud solution, what you're really looking for is any protocol, any location, and any data type. Because you want a solution that will obviously meet your business needs, both from an application and database, but also from a performance, from a growth, those type of things. If we look at the primary pain points going on in storage in general and enterprise business, number one is data capacity growth. And that's been going on for years, right? You're making an educated guess every time you buy storage for how much you need. And in fact, if you think about it, you're typically buying with a minimum 3 years, if not 4 or 5 years. So you're doing some extrapolation, trying to figure out, well, I think this is our growth rate. Here's how much we're going to need, and backing into it. The other major one is disaster recovery and also capacity. It's interesting to me that performance is fourth, because I've been in the business about 25 years, and I'll say in the last 3 to 4 years, to me, the biggest one isn't even capacity. It's the performance, because the applications and databases are changing, and they're driving to have much more performance needs to meet the need of the business. But you need to cover all of these areas, and certainly regulatory and government compliance. So to have a successful solution for a cloud storage environment, the really key, 6, I should say, key areas that need to be addressed: scalability, availability, affordability, performance, compliance, and flexibility. So today we're going to address each of these specific areas and kind of go through and talk about what you should be looking for in a solution and how Zadara specifically meets these areas. So when you look at scalability, what we're talking about is obviously capacity, but it's not just the amount that you have in there, it's the ability to scale up and down and out, to have both horizontal and vertical ability to meet the needs of the business. Rapid provisioning. People don't want to come in and say, you know what, I need additional storage space, I need additional compute, I need additional performance, and then have to wait 2-3 hours, if not 2 or 3 days in some cases in larger organizations. Also, what if you could put the storage where you need it, on the specific tier that you need, and have that matched up to the demand of the business? So what we're talking about is capacity and performance on demand. So from a scalability standpoint, the key is this ability to have Physical isolation at the drive layer. This is something that is a patented technology that is unique to Zadara. So the company again is Zadara. The solution is VPSA, Virtual Private Storage Array. So if you think of each VPSA, it is the equivalent of its own SAN. So now by department, by project, by agency, by customer, you can carve out conceptually its own SAN, but you get the value of a multi-tenant environment. So now you can meet the scalability and needs of the individual department and the individual business needs. At the same time, you want an environment that will grow with your business, but you're not having to continue to throw capital at it. Again, when we originally were purchasing storage, you're typically making this educated guess what you need for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Well, what if you could start with capacity for just what you need today, with overhead built in, and when you hit 70 to 80% utilization, you get more capacity at no cost, zero cost. This is something no other storage company in the world does. There are companies, in fact, I'll just say it, every storage company out there now has storage as a service, as you know. The good ones will let you pay as you grow. What's the thing almost none of them do? Shrink. And none of them do this. As your capacity grows, we add capacity at zero cost to you, and you only pay for what you consume. This is a significant impact on your business, and this is a very key way to free up cash flow. It's an Opex model, but it's a step further than that, and that it actually frees up working capital and cash flow, which in this day and age is obviously critical. The second key piece is availability. Storage must provide multi-divisional capabilities to meet the business needs, RPOs and RTOs. You need to have something that can give you snapshots and clones, for example, the ability to stop ransomware, the ability to have high availability. If you have data, information that you cannot afford to lose a single IO beat, you want to have something that would be a synchronous mirror. And also that option to put the data both locally, remote, and have access to it regardless of where it sits geographically. That's the whole concept of the hybrid cloud, availability. What if you could bring the data and information closer to where you are geographically and physically rather than being tied into any vendor? And 100% guarantee. You want a company that literally gives money back based on performance and availability, and that's exactly what Zadara does. Kirk?
Thanks, Shawn. So the Zadara Cloud offers built-in remote mirroring, so we can do many-to-one, one-to-many mirroring. Also within the system, we can do backup to object storage. So you can configure your VPSA to back up either to a local Zadara object store or a remote object store, whether it's Zadara or AWS S3. We can support that. Our snapshot technology also is built in, and we can go to as small an increment as a snapshot every minute. And like Shawn said, we can have a highly available stretch cluster multi-zone Zadara Cloud. So we can stretch across 2 local sites, usually within 5 milliseconds of each other. And if either one of those sites fails, you still have availability of your data in a very highly available synchronous mirror. So we are deployed worldwide. We have over 300 sites deployed today. Many of those sites are private clouds, but we are also cloud adjacent to the hyperscaler providers like AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google. On the left, we have presented many of our AWS resources that are available so that customers can use AWS and Zadara Storage together at those locations.
And the key point with this is that Zadara can talk to Zadara. So again, back to the concept of availability. You now don't just have these individual providers, AWS, Azure, Google, etc. You have an ecosystem that goes across the entire globe. And again, this just shows our larger sites, over 300 of those around the world. Besides that, we have literally thousands of VPSAs. And because VPSA can replicate to other VPSA, you have the ability now to put your data geographically and have the availability wherever you need it. And this is what we're talking about. These are actual clients of Zadara, so you can have this on-premise in your own site. So imagine having all the value of a private cloud, scale up, scale down, performance on demand, only pay for what you need, but have it in your own rack in your own building. We can have it in any service provider or to colo. Again, we have the built-in replication. And we are the bridge to the cloud. So it's not an either or, it's actually significant added value within the public cloud providers. This is actually how Zadara got started 9.5 years ago, because we saw the need within the public cloud for additional capabilities and features, specifically around performance and security and added value, and that continues to this day. To that end, this isn't Zadara has a cloud. These are our features in their clouds. And a couple to highlight, you can see from a performance perspective, this isn't a little bit different, this is quantum. So if you need performance, but still leverage compute and do your applications within AWS, within Azure, absolutely phenomenal synergy. So we're not saying don't look at the public clouds. They're actually a fantastic solution to leverage ours as a foundation. But to that end, and I will call it co-opetition, AWS and Azure, Google absolutely love us because we actually solve some of the problems their clients have in their own environments. What they don't like is we just gave you the choice to move. Multi-cloud access. How would you like us to undo the handcuffs? Because we drastically reduce the egress fees, for example, which I've seen upwards of 6-7 figures for some of my clients over the years to get your data back out. Zadara takes care of that by giving you a foundation that you're not having to pay that fee. And as I mentioned, we put our money where our mouth is. Availability guarantee. Our SLA is for 5 nines. So this isn't a gateway. This isn't a software overlay. This is tier 1 mission critical enterprise class storage. In reality, it's 5.5 nines. This is since the very first VPSA was shipped 9 years ago. And we give 100% credit back towards any sort of downtime or outage, regardless of where the data sits, in your own site, on-prem, at a data center, etc. Affordability. This is part of the key things we're talking about today. How can you get the tools you need to run your business from a data perspective, but free up cash flow and make it cost effective? Well, one of the first things is having an Opex model. What if you only pay for what you actually consume? And not just in terms of the storage capacity, but the performance you choose. Imagine, honestly, a SAN that's constantly customizable. The ability to have non-disruptive online volume migrations. And have the storage meet the need of each business unit. Just today, it's just the opposite. When you buy your storage, you design it based on what you think you need. But the reality is the performance and the type of drive you choose is what you get. And this ability to free up cash flow. Control your data, control your costs. Free up cash flow. That's the message. The black line here represents legacy storage. It will grow, right? And in fact, again, storage on demand, storage as a service. Every company out there is talking about it. And the good ones will let you pay as you grow. What's the thing they don't do? Shrink. And I've had a lot of companies say, we don't ever get rid of data. We don't do anything. I was like, well, I hope for goodness sakes you take it off your SSDs, off of your flash, and put it on cheaper storage. And what if you could put it on object storage at fractions of a cent? This is the type of business model that comes into play with Zadara. And candidly, Zadara takes the risk. You have the capacity sitting there, but you're only paying for what you consume. This is a completely different business model that converts your CapEx into an Opex model. And we meet your funding is the best way to think about it. So this is actual numbers based on some clients that we've had over the years and research that was done. You know, your traditional storage, CapEx, financing, lease, and then cloud-based service, and this is Zadara. Now, the reason that we have the green lines going down, Zadara is based and built on software-defined storage. We're able to take advantage of the latest and greatest technology when it becomes available. In a real-world scenario, just this last year, we started the year with 800 gigabyte SSDs. We went to 1.6 terabyte in April, and then we went to 4 terabyte and then 8 terabyte within just 14 months. And the price went down 38% for 10x capacity increase. So the reality of it is this green line is if technology never changes. This worst case scenario. The reality is going to be that storage is going to continue to have greater capacity and greater performance at a lower cost. We pass that savings along to you while you still own the storage. Today, when do you get the latest and greatest features, let alone have any price change or reduction from any other vendor? You get it when you do a renewal. This changes that entire business model. You'll actually see your costs go down constantly every 12, 14, 18 months as technology is upgraded. And those are done again at no cost to you. In fact, it's at a reduction. Performance. You need to have the performance that the actual departments, projects, agencies, the applications and databases need. A lot of companies have now looked at all flash, which is a fantastic solution. There's some great vendors out there. But an interesting statistic, 82 to 88% of all applications and databases do not need over 50,000 IOPS. Why in the world are you putting an all-flash array in? You're basically putting a Ferrari out in a traffic jam. In our case, what if you could get a straightaway, use the performance when you need it, but then back the data down for the other 80, 90% of the time you don't? That's really the message. In one solution, you have SSDs, SATA, and object storage for long-term archive. So if your company does any data mining, if you're doing any analytics, this is one of the best solutions in the market. It was designed for this. Performance on demand, scale on demand, and the ability to have cache on demand. We have up to 3.2 terabyte of cache. So now you only pay performance when you need it. Hibernation of engine. This was really interesting, and I'll give credit where it's due. Harvard University said to us, this is probably 4 or 5 years back, you know what? We don't need this on the weekends, and we're not really using it at night. Can we just turn it off? Well, you can't turn the whole system off because your storage is sitting in your data, but that you are able to hibernate the engine. That is savings over $50,000, and that was instantaneously just by turning this off in the nights and weekends. So kind of a very different business model again. Kirk?
Thanks, Shawn. So the Zadara Cloud has, like Shawn said, multiple tiers available. So for high performance workloads like VDI or OLTP databases, an all flash environment is a good way to configure the system. We also have pure spinning disk for file or object storage, easily expandable. As well, we have hybrid virtual private storage arrays that can be configured. And like Shawn said, we have toggleable cache that can be expanded or reduced as a necessity dictates. So if you do have like a month-end high performance period that you need, you can expand your cache, get the performance that you need, and back it down later on as needed. We can also change the virtual controller engines as needed. So seamlessly, you can increase your performance by changing the engine type. And then you can back it back down as you need reduced performance. So we have a very flexible system to address any of your performance requirements.
And what's really interesting with the extended flash cache, you can now get SSD performance at SATA pricing. If you think about that, that can be a 10x, 15x reduction in cost for getting performance you need to meet the business. Compliance. Obviously, compliance is key, and frankly, it's becoming, it doesn't even matter what industry or business you're in, there are specific needs you have. What's unique with Zadara is one of the key pieces, I should say, from a compliance perspective. We already showed you the first, the physical isolation at the drive layer. There's no other storage in the world that has that. Everybody else's multi-tenancy is done at the controller and software layer. By having physical isolation, this actually exceeds any of the compliance needs that you're going to see across any industry from a physical layer. It's the equivalent, again, of giving them their own SAN by project, department, agency, etc. And then the encryption. Almost every storage out there has some sort of encryption in flight and at rest. What's unique to Zadara, the end user keeps the key. You all keep the key regardless of if this sits in your own building, in a data center, an MSP, at a colo, or the public cloud. This has actually allowed many of our clients where, based on compliance, they were not going to be allowed to go into a colo, let alone into a public cloud. It now allowed them that option as well. You know, and you can look online and see a bunch of the different types of compliance that we hit, but you can see some of these different ones here. Flexibility. Your system, your infrastructure has to be flexible to meet the needs of the business. Well, obviously, by having an Opex model that's based on true consumption, not on creative financing, this is designed for absolute 100% flexibility. No long-term contracts, no minimums. The other thing is this includes 24/7 proactive management. You don't even have to have a Zadara storage specialist. Part of the service is this is managed for you by Zadara if your business wants that. And we'll talk more about that in a bit here. And Kirk, if you want to talk through kind of the different options, the different renditions we have, that would be great within our Zadara solution.
Thanks, Shawn. So we have a multi-tenant platform in the Zadara Cloud. It is software-defined networking and software-defined storage. It can be deployed anywhere. It can be on-prem. It can be in a co-location facility nearby, or it can be cloud adjacent to the hyperscale providers. And like Shawn said, it's a 24/7 managed service. So our operations team will be keeping an eye on your storage array and making recommendations. So for instance, if you deployed an all-flash array initially thinking that you would need in excess of 50,000 IOPS, operations might make a recommendation that, hey, Mr. Customer, you're not utilizing all of your flash performance. Why don't we migrate your data seamlessly to a hybrid array that has abundant cache and SAS drives for your capacity requirements? We can do that. We can also, within the same Zadara Cloud, have an object storage array for any of your unstructured or as a backup target. So within this environment, we can address all your performance requirements, all your flexibility requirements, and that you're not stuck with any particular storage array from the time that you can configure it. You can change as your business needs change.
And this is an actual client we have. Imagine if you could now offer this out from one solution. So one department needs some SIP shares for the Windows apps. VPSA 2 and 3 is actually the same department, but two different project needs. One had some NFS, the other was iSCSI. And then they had SQL and SAP databases. And interestingly enough, they're actually looking at eliminating tape because the cost of the object storage was so low. They could now use their data rather than having the brain damage of having to rehydrate, bring the data back, let alone if the tapes are older than 5, 6, 7 years, the problem of even being able to read the media. This now gives them the option to use their data to make good business decisions, do analytics against it, and all of the different departments are able to leverage the object storage. Again, with full isolation of access and performance. And even if your business doesn't do chargebacks, I've never met a CIO or a department head that wouldn't like to be able to do a show back by project. I've been in the business of storage about 25 years. I've never seen this level of detail from any vendor ever. It literally shows the reads, writes, encryption snapshot, shows the performance that was chosen, what type of drives were chosen, even mix, how many hours in the month to the pin. This is a fantastic solution for making strong business decisions and being able to tie back your business and technology to what's going on internally. As Kirk had mentioned, the 24 by 7, 365 proactive management. This isn't just a call home feature. This is very different than other storage, and it comes with a 100% uptime guarantee. We can do non-disruptive hardware and software upgrades, again, at no cost. I talked about that earlier, how that has a tremendous impact on both your performance and your affordability. So in summary, what if you could offer your overall business, departments, agencies, projects, etc., the control of enterprise storage, but with cloud agility and economics? What if you could bring all the things that people love and why people go to a public cloud into your own site, and or leverage that public cloud, but with better performance, better security, and much better options in terms of coming in and going out and not getting hit with that brutal egress fee? Here's kind of my mantra. What if you could make IT a competitive differentiator for your business? I've kind of joked for years now, what does every CFO, VP of sales, and CEO think of IT? It's a necessary evil and it's a cost center. Hopefully today you saw we can change that whole paradigm. What if you could help the business do what it does for a living faster, better, more cost effectively to be able to get your product, your solution, your service out there faster? You're now actually helping through IT to make your business more competitive. And Kirk, if you want to talk on this.
So the Zadara Cloud adheres to the NIST standard for cloud compute. So we are as a service model. We support virtually any data type, any network type. We have rapid elasticity, so the system can grow and shrink as the customer needs. It is a measured service, like Shawn indicated. We can provide detailed information on utilization across all the virtual private storage arrays under your management. And no planned downtime. The system was designed from the ground up to be 100% available. We are infrastructure as a service, and we can be presented in virtually any location, on-prem, in a co-location facility, or cloud adjacent to the big hyperscale providers. So we present ourselves as a cloud storage as a service, and we meet all the NIST standard requirements.
So in summary, when you're looking for a solution, right, to be able to have a cloud-based model, whether it is in your own location, service provider, colo, MSP, hybrid, and cloud, these are the types of things you want. It goes without saying, fully managed, but be careful on this. Again, every other vendor out there today has storage as a service. If you dive under the weeds, a significant number of those, it's creative financing. Full enterprise functionality. You don't have to give up functionality, and that's what some of them that are more of a gateway or a software overlay, if you look at it, it's not designed as enterprise storage. It's designed as just a means of getting data in and out of a cloud, for example, but that's not going to give you the performance that you need, and you kind of pay for what you get. That ability to do true tiered data storage. Do you need flash? Can it go on object? Or SATA for probably 80% of your business. Performance on demand, grow and shrink, and then 24 by 7 proactive monitoring. These are the types of things that you should be looking for in a service model. Some of the, just a quick 2 or 3 here that we've got some examples of clients. I mentioned Harvard earlier because to their credit, they're the ones who realized you could hibernate the engine, which was a huge cost savings, again, performance on demand. But that ability too for them with being able to meet the protect the student privacy, so compliance was huge, and they did want an Opex model that would match into their business. NetTrepid is a service provider that has literally hundreds and maybe even more now thousands of clients around the globe with different needs, constantly changing performance and storage capacity needs and changing applications a lot of the time as they bring on and or have clients leave their environment. This is fascinating. They actually had an overall hardware footprint reduction of 81% versus what they had with their NetApp and their Isilon previously. So just the power and cooling reduction was exponential. And this was amazing. They had an over 80% performance improvement. Lumentum's kind of a fascinating company. They manufacture all of the chips for the new iPhone starting about a year and a half, 2 years ago. They had a real issue, though, in that they were generating 3 petabyte of data a month. They needed to do analytics against it, up to 65 to 75 engineers being able to randomly look at those, because what they had to do was get an image of every single chip being manufactured coming off the line. It was that many chips that fast. There was 3 petabyte a month. Oh, and then they wanted to be able to replicate that across the Pacific Ocean to AWS and go off to Glacier. There actually was no other storage, and in fact, AWS themselves couldn't do this because they couldn't ingest the data fast enough and encapsulate it to then move it over any network, let alone across the ocean, to be able to have this. Leveraging our Docker containers. So if you haven't heard of Docker, I'll just plant this seed. You ought to look it up. It is open source, nothing unique to Zadara there. What's very unique to Zadara, we're the only storage in the world that Docker's built natively at the core. Think of it as hyper application performance. So we're able to do encapsulation of 100 terabyte chunks of data and then do analytics against those and move those across from Zadara to Zadara to then go off to S3 in AWS and then ultimately off to Glacier. Eindhoven University is a university of technology. Had an issue where they were trying to match because there are students obviously coming in, coming out, their matriculation. How would they be able to meet their changing environments? And one of the biggest pieces that was VMware. Little side note, VMware themselves, all of their new features, capabilities are built on Zadara. Zadara is the storage for the last 6 years VMware uses in their own test and development environment. I was there about 4 or 5 years ago and meeting with them and their CTO. We were in a meeting and she looked up and I must have had kind of a, a blank stare on my face and she goes, "Do you understand what they're talking about?" Because the engineers from Zadara and VMware were both up on this giant whiteboard going back and forth. And I said, "Some of it." And she goes, "This is a big deal." I'm like, "Okay, why?" Long story short, there is a 3 to 10x performance improvement in a VMware environment due to our patented software and the ISR technology, so that we have a fantastic synergy with VMware, and that's what Eindhoven was able to leverage in their environment. And VDI as well was a huge synergy. We work with some of the biggest companies in the world. Candidly, you can kind of see some of the names here, and across all industries. So this isn't one specific area. There are a lot of states, municipalities, city and local government that we're doing a lot of work with. In fact, there's one, well, no, 2 states that central IT for the states now has Zadara as their foundation, and they're offering it out to the agencies to do centralized backup and DR, leveraging our solution. Working with Klik, we have a free trial available for you. So please reach out to them. They have the capacity and the availability and expertise in understanding what we do. And that's what we would love to do, is have a follow-up conversation with you and your team about your specific needs of your business. I want to hand it back over now to Arthur. He will give you kind of a wrap up and let me get him promoted. Sorry. There we go. All right, Arthur, are you good?
you, Shawn.
We can hear you now.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, Zadara has really been a great partner for us and has helped us overcome some challenges we had recently with some clients, and we look forward to adding their solution and working with their solution even closer down the road. But I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about us briefly. Some of you already are aware of who we are, but three core focuses for us as an organization. Obviously, managed IT services. We have a very fast-growing cyber security services practice, and we have developed also very strong cloud expertise, primarily focusing on Azure, AWS, and our own high-performance cloud called Moldy. Why I think it's our relationship is important with Zadara is because our customers are coming to us asking for us for a solution. No longer are we having those conversations of we're a Dell shop, we're a EMC shop, we are a NetApp shop. They're like, here are our challenges. We want you guys to deliver this solution. We want you guys to manage it for us, implement it, support it. We want to be able to call you guys 24/7 whenever we have issues and challenges. We want Klik.Solutions to address it. So, and Zadara is a perfect fit for us because it allows us to do just that. As part of our portfolio here we consider our IT managed services. So, managed storage, cloud storage is an important component for us. I'll discuss a case study that we recently had that we had a successful implementation with Zadara. We had a client that it was a legacy EMC client that just we're tired of dealing with EMC. They were dealing with refreshes all the time, renewals, maintenance renewals that were astronomical in cost. They were concerned about data growth. We're growing as a company. Their data would fluctuate, go up and down, and having to kind of also handle some of the risk by having the data in-house themselves, managing it themselves. We took them on as a managed service customer, and their driving factors were we wanted to get to a higher level of compliance. We wanted to be able to scale up and down. We wanted to get to a situation where we would never run out of disk space. And so Zadara was a perfect fit. This client happens to be in Washington, D.C., in the legal e-discovery services. They're a service provider to some of the largest law firms in the world. And they ingest a lot of data. And like the challenge was that data fluctuates from time to time. Certain months their data can be astronomical. Certain months it could shrink considerably. And so they were looking for a solution that would fluctuate. It needed to integrate into their VMware environment, needed to be secure. They're adhering to ISO 27001 standards, so encryption, all those other components needed to be very critical. They wanted to be able to extend and scale out to the cloud, particularly AWS for backup and DR. And so this is how we were able to accomplish this. We implemented Zadara Storage. I will say it was probably the fastest implementation we've ever had. I think we had a conversation with our Zadara representative as well as the customer, and probably within 7 days we had Zadara equipment on site ready for implementation. We delivered an on-premise high-performance solution that went along their core business model of extending to the cloud using backup and replication. Ability to fail over to AWS was very, very important for them. And they wanted to make sure the data was encrypted, it was secure, always available 24/7. They are a 24/7 operation, so outage has critical impact on their business. And like I came up with the ability to never run out of space. So they basically have access to on-demand storage. They can scale up and down as necessary, up to petabytes or more of data available for them for their consumption. It falls in line with their high compliance standards that they set. They've actually added 2 very large clients, probably their largest clients since implementing this solution and helping them adhere to some of these compliance standards. And this is us interacting with the chief information security officers for these two very large law firms, and they wanted a complete end-to-end solution. They wanted it managed. They didn't want to have conversations of like, hey, we're going to run out of space. We need to add different storage pools, different types of storage. We wanted to be able to ingest data quick. They wanted a solution. And that's sort of what we were able to deliver with them with our partnership with Zadara. So, yeah, just some ways to contact us. Several folks on the call know us already, so know how to get a hold of us, and I'll be reaching out. Myself and the sales team will be reaching out to them directly for follow-up. But we have a phone number, email address, and obviously our brand new website that we are developing. We're located here in Baltimore, and looking forward to additional conversations. I guess I'd like to open it up for any kind of questions, anything that we could see in the chat here. Shawn and I will do our best to answer. And of course, we'll follow up with each of you individually offline as well.
I appreciate everybody taking the time. Hope this was informative and gave you kind of a different model and kind of different area to think about how to manage, grow, and think about your storage and your solutions in the future.
Yep. All right, Shawn, I think we're good. I appreciate everyone making time for us today, and stay tuned for more. Thank you, Shawn, Kirk, Zadara team, Vita, everyone else. Thank you guys for attending. Look forward to discussing more in the very near future. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.